This episode is sponsored by Mudstack. Mudstack is the only asset management and collaboration platform custom built for game studios and digital artists. So level up your game art and your art game with Mudstack. Are you frustrated with convoluted folder hierarchies and naming conventions that make finding assets a pain? Do you hate using version control software that was built for software engineers instead of you, an artist? Are you also annoyed with late feedback that forces you to throw away hours and hours of work? We all been there. Finally, there's a solution built for you, the artist. Mudstack is the only digital asset management, version control, and review platform custom built for artists and game studios. Get started for free in just a few minutes at mudstack.com. That's mudstack.com. Hey guy, here's the deal. This podcast is sponsored by Manscaped. Manscaped is the best in men's below the waist grooming champions of the world. They offer precision engineered tools for your family jewels. When I was a kid, I thought it was weird and it was embarrassing that I was doing maintenance down there. And in a long time, I felt like I had to hide the fact that things were getting a bit hairy. But now I am glad I live in the world that Manscaped is widely being celebrated as a way for us men, to kind of get ourselves in check, be organized, and be our best self down there. So right now, Manscaped has just launched their 4th generation trimmer, the Lawnmower 4.0. So imagine shaving with a super sleek, well-designed and optimized trimmer that makes shaving time your favorite time in the bathroom. I went for a trial run and it was refreshing. And your spouse and partner can only be jumping with joy, knowing that you are taking care of yourself and in turn taking care of your partner or spouse. What's cool about the trimmer, it has a 4000K LED light that you can turn on when in use to help you navigate down that jungle of yours and make sure that you're getting it in the right places and crevices. Additional guards so that you can get the perfect length from your trimmer. Some people, like myself, just like a little maintenance, all right, a little off the top. And others, probably Ray, would probably go all the way down to the skin level, which is completely fine. It's whatever your preferences are. So there's different sizes for guard lengths that is available for the Lawnmower 4.0. So guys, do yourself a favor. Stop trimming with the same trimmer that you use in your face as for your balls. Hygienically, disgusting. Ethically, I get it. If it's something that you've been wanting to try, now's your chance to do it. You can get 20% off plus free shipping by using the code GDU at manscaped.com. Again, it's manscaped.com. Get 20% off and be a better you with the code GDU. Your balls will thank you. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Game Dev Unchained, the #1 game development podcast about game development and the lifestyle thereof. I am your host, Brandon Pham. And with me, I should have asked you this, Matthew Canei. Do you go by Matthew or Matt?
Matt's fine.
Did I say
good job on the last name too?
I took a chance on that. All right, man. This is part of the podcast where I kind of ask you, our guests, where you're from, where you are right now, and where you're heading. A little intro, basically.
All right. Hey, everybody. I'm Matt Canei. I'm the lead developer at Impact Games on Hanako, Honor, and Blade, which we shipped last week after a crazy 14-year journey. I'm also a senior technical artist in the game industry, currently at ILM X Lab, but previously at Tripwire Interactive and Hi-Res Studios.
Awesome, man. All right, let's Might as well start from the beginning. So you said 14-year journey. So I'm guessing this idea, was it breeded from solely yourself, and then the team slowly grew from there? Like, let me know, from the beginning, what was the intention and what was the inspiration behind it all?
So I'm going to go back before I even started in the industry, where I feel like the seeds were planted. So when I was 14, which I can't do the math in my head, I'll say it was 2002.
Mm-hmm.
And I was 14. It was the first year my mother just got diagnosed with breast cancer. That same year, The Last Samurai came out. It's my favorite movie of all time. And after one of her appointments, we stopped at Blockbuster. This is showing my age. Blockbuster was a place you could rent games and movies. It was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
As a kid, your parents would take you there, and they had like every game, and you could pick it out, take it home, and play it for like a week for like $10 or whatever. I rented Shenmue 2, and it completely changed my life. And basically from that point on, I knew I wanted to make games, and make games that could have that kind of impact on people in a positive way, make them grow, make them think about how and why they do things. So 4 years later, she passed away during the beginning of my second year in college for game development. And that winter break, she's my best friend. I lost the person closest to me, and I just started writing. And the idea kind of hit me that I wanted to make a game to pay tribute to her life and memory. And at the same time, I was really into martial arts and like samurai culture, that kind of thing, and kind of strung together this idea of these samurai clans that one representing her and the other representing cancer and disease. And basically I was going to make a game. It's a metaphor for her battle. So I started recruiting classmates. It was basically like our pet project throughout college. It really ended up turning into like our senior project. And then after that, I had started in the industry, and it kind of went on the shelf for a year or two. There was a scene that I had made that was for like the Chinese pantheon in Smite, and I had showed a screenshot of it to one of the guys I founded the project with. He's like, "Dude, can you make Hanako look that good? Like, we should pick the game back up and finish it." So we basically just like started a new team in 2013, and then Unreal 4 came out in 2014, and that's like from there on is what we developed that came out last week. That's kind of a quick and dirty history lesson on the game, but really through that whole journey, most of our dev team lost a parent to cancer. Unfortunately, I hate that that's a coincidence for almost everybody that came through the project, but it was a way for us to bond and grieve and work through that loss. And the project really was kind of like a therapy sandbox for us to explore the feelings, and especially for me. I mean, all the environments and every map kind of represents a different part of one side of that struggle. And there's maps that they represent cancer and facing cancer, getting to destroy it and cleanse it, and others represent getting to talk to that person one more time. And there's a lot of very deep themes that I kind of instilled in these scenes.
Oh man.
So it's kind of the quick and dirty.
Well, I appreciate you kind of you and your team sticking through it all. And artists, kind of being an artist myself, we kind of go through our grief the best way we know how, but through expression of what we do and trying to interpret our feelings through it. And it's nuts, man. Like when it's one of the unique stories when you kind of reached out, like we hear and talk to friends all the time about, me myself being in this pitfall of creating projects that never finish, right? And to have the discipline to see it through and finally shipping, it must have been a huge triumphant moment for you guys, for everyone, as you guys are managing your own personal career too. I guess what I want to ask about is, like, how many different iterations did you guys kind of go through if you were to kind of estimate? And what were the most major ones? You kind of mentioned the engine change, things like that. Looking back, were those changes beneficial, or overall you guys felt like you could have skipped those those little updates and stuff? Yeah.
I mean, that's like, because we were like in UT3 as a mod first, because UDK wasn't even a thing yet. It was still like you have to pay $1 million for the UE3 license, and then UDK came out. We switched to that towards the end of college. Then UE4, of course, and then UE4 has its version upgrades, which are a ton of work. I'd say we've lost 2 years entirely to UE4 upgrades.
Oh wow.
Though, to be fair, and I did the math sometime recently, like, all right, how much man hours did we actually spend on this? And it actually, crazily enough, worked out to about like 14 to like 18 weeks of a 100-person studio, their man hours. I was like, oh, well, I feel a lot better now, because like that's not that much time. I don't know a game that's come out after 14 weeks.
Yeah.
Though it was very slow and methodical and brick by brick. I think the main transition was actually the game got a lot smaller over the years. In college, we were like pie to the sky. We were naive. We didn't know any better. So like my original design doc was this 100-page monstrosity of like, we are going to have 12 classes and 20 maps and like 15 game modes. It was absurd. Mm-hmm. And over the years, we had team members that were like, I'm not working on this unless we de-scope and get rid of stuff. Like, there's no way our tiny team can do all this. And I really took everyone's feedback to heart. When you're working on a project where no one's getting paid, like the best thing you can do as a leader is listen to everybody and really, really ask yourself, like, does this make the product better? And that was like my MO for running this project. And one of the things that kept it going for so long. We did de-scope, and that's probably the biggest thing. But the biggest transformation really, I think, has been in the last year or two. I feel like the last 10% of dev time is when like 50% of games get made, AAA and indie. Like we went through so many like incremental things, and then it was like it clicked to us what we were missing all this time, what we needed to do. Our experience was there now. We knew our systems. It was all very mature. And it was like the thing we were missing was like messaging. Like, you can have a good mechanic, but if you don't message it well, it can make it a bad mechanic. But if you have an average mechanic but great messaging, can make it an exceptional mechanic. And that was something that like we just tried to apply everywhere.
Mm-hmm. When it comes to the besides the transitional points, like, I think a lot of the learning moments a lot of developers can actually take from your experience from any type of project are those moments that the team feels a little demotivated, right? And it always takes one person out of the team to kind of push it and kind of like switching the baton a bit, right? Once in a while, another person might be the one that motivates. Is there an average time frame that you feel like every month, and what were the pain points that you guys had to get past? Like, what were it? Was it just no progress for a long time, and then you get a sense of kind of everything going down a bit, and then it took something to kind of boost it back up? Did you recognize some type of pattern throughout the 14 years?
Absolutely. Yeah. The main one that comes to mind is when we did our Kickstarter. And that whole year was like a complete roller coaster.
When was that? And how far in was that?
It was in 2015.
Okay.
So we had done Steam Greenlight, and we got greenlit in 9 days. It was almost a record, and we were absolutely thrilled. Like, I was over the moon. I remember I was like at work, and I was like in the bathroom or something, and got the email from Steam, and I like ran outside and like ran a victory lap around the office, and people were coming back from lunch, and they like knew exactly why I was doing that. And we decided to go straight into Kickstarter. And we really should have done it at the same time, because we had all these people coming through Steam, seeing our concept, but we didn't capture them in any way. We didn't like get their emails or funnel them to a Kickstarter. Like, we just lost all those people. And we did our Kickstarter, and I remember like tweeting at Norman Reedus because he was like in Atlanta at the time. That's where we're based. Though our team's always been remote. Like I feel like we like perfected remote work like before the pandemic forced everyone else to years ago. But I remember him tweeting out about the game, but I forgot to put the link to our Kickstarter in it. So like no one did any. It was like 50,000 notifications on Twitter, but no one knew what to do with it. We like had these missed opportunities, but our Kickstarter failed miserably. Like I knew after 3 days it wasn't going to go through. And I took it harder than anybody on the team. I was crushed. I don't think I worked on the game for like 4 months after. I was just like, man, we didn't even come close. Like we needed these funds to, get some help and hit some of our development goals. And that was really hard for me, and a lot harder than I thought, because I knew it was failing after 3 days, but it didn't. It just, I don't know, just didn't sit well. And like half the team quit. They were like, well, nothing's coming out of this, so we're done. And I had to kind of recruit new people, and which there's always been turnover on this kind of project. That's kind of how it goes. Usually it's for good reasons, which I'll get into later. But it wasn't until later that I think our Kickstarter was in March. I don't think I touched the game again until August. And then there's a local game convention in Georgia called Siege, and they do like an investor conference every year. And they had asked us to pitch Hanako. And so you'll hear me talk about October 9th, that date. That's the date my mom passed away. And the investor conference was on October 9th. We pitched, we won unanimously. And while it didn't ever lead to anything really, it reinvigorated the team. Like everyone got very excited again. We felt like that validated our product. And we kicked it into high gear, and we got like 2 classes of like design and animations done. We got like 2 maps. Like that was the most productive period, I think, of the whole project until the very end. And that just like by chance bailed us out of the fog.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the most important part when it comes to any type of development is being able to kind of celebrate the little wins to kind of give that momentum and riding off of that. And it's one of those lessons that we heard the hard way, right? When it comes to understanding that. And one of the challenges, or one of the biggest challenges as an indie developer, is that if you don't go into it kind of understanding what it encompasses, right? Not just developing the game, but being able to be on top of telling people about it, right? Unfortunately, there's just not a lot of schooling or any type of real education to kind of walk us through that, to prepare us for that. It sounds like, through reflection, you were able to catch a moment where there was a lot of foot traffic, but unfortunately Kickstarter wasn't prepared in time. Were you guys able to kind of take that and use that lesson somewhere else along the way? And or not just for marketing, but just being able to catch something, reflect, and be able to apply it the next time around for something else?
I mean, I think that just kind of put us in the mindset of where there's going to be disappointments in the journey, and we don't have to let them crush us as a team. Like we've always, from day one, we've battled, for choosing to do a multiplayer indie game, which I couldn't possibly recommend any less.
Yeah.
Building a player base is the most difficult thing I've ever done. Any development related anything. It's so difficult. And like, we just had to, like you said, we had to celebrate the tiny victories. Like, we did events every Wednesday for the last probably 8 years. And it was open to the public. Whoever wanted to play, the dev team was there. And that was kind of our way of building the community. The other side of it was I streamed development live like almost every day, so people could watch the whole game get made. And I did that for 2 reasons. The first one was I just like paying it forward and teaching people stuff and passing on advice. And the other one was we got, a lot of gamers, they don't understand development. So they're very brutal and unfair with developers, and their expectations are impossible for a dev team, especially a tiny one. And it was there to educate people and show them that like, hey, some stuff is actually very hard, and it's been great how many people have come through like our Discord or messaged me and said, dude, I had no idea. Like this was like weeks of work. I have so much more respect for what you guys do now. And I think like managing that part has been like, it's still an ongoing thing. Like the feedback that we're getting now that we've released isn't that different from, a couple years ago, though I feel like the game's night and day from even 6 months ago. But we've always battled the like, great game, no players.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a day-to-day challenge.
Right. Well, it's speaking day-to-day or year-to-year challenge, right? You kind of went through this roller coaster of, take the last 14 years, the indie scene have changed so much. Pretty much every 2-3 years, there's either a new system. I guess the introduction of the iPhone was either fresh or just around the corner. I don't think it blew up just yet when you guys probably started, right? Were there moments during this 14-year journey of the technology evolving, how the industry is evolving, that was notable while you were creating this game, you and your team?
Yeah, I think so. I think that just the entire process of making a game became, probably fourfold easier than when we started. Like programs like Substance Painter, like was a game changer for the whole industry. It made texturing a whole different level of quality, and you could do it like, I don't know, some amount way faster than before. And we've always had to like do this leapfrogging thing where it's like, hey, it's been 3 years. Our content hasn't been updated. Now we have to go back and like update everything. So we kind of had to, like, I spent a lot of the last 2 years just like retexturing most of the game just because it needed updating. And there's some stuff that we just couldn't, like we can't redo the characters. They're already like rigged and skinned to the skeleton and the animations are already there. Like there's some stuff we just had to deal with and live with. But Unreal, since we upgraded as Unreal upgraded, we kind of stayed up with things, but the trends changed. Like the genres that were hot changed, very like early on when in probably like the 2013-ish era, like MOBAs were huge. Like I worked on one for 6 years. They were huge. And there were little things we kind of were inspired by in that area, like our skill tree and ability system, that kind of stuff kind of came out of like a MOBA sphere, but then it shifted into like character-based shooters and like survival shooters, like the DayZ kind of games. And then it's like Battle Royale is a huge thing, which is something we're going to add to our game as an option. And, it's kind of transitioning again into something else. I don't know what that is yet. I guess Souls games were also huge during that time. So the genre, like flavor of the year has changed completely. And there's been we've always had to battle games coming out that are similar. When we first started, it was Chivalry 1, then it was For Honor, and now it's Chivalry 2, Instill For Honor, and Naraka. There's we always get compared to whatever the biggest AAA melee game is.
Yeah, I do. I have been noticing like the tide's changing a bit where, shooters will always be prevalent, but there's at least some flavors being introduced. Melee have been, I think, in the last few years have been on a rise. Like I feel like a lot of people want more hand-to-hand combat or weaponry type of fighting. I feel the last 3-5 years to have been more of a focus along that genre when it comes to multiplayers. The game Sifu comes to mind. That seems to be like an indie game that goes through kung fu and as a master and stuff. Like I feel like this is all positive variety that I feel have been missing, I think, for a while. It was just shooters for like, felt like 8 years straight. Yeah, it just felt like there was Battlefield, COD, Titanfall, It's just like endless shooters. And it's kind of refreshing to see a game like yours. I think it's coming at the right time where people are kind of what else? What else can I kill people with? Right? That kind of thing. So it's refreshing. I think, yeah, it's just, you got to be able to kind of play with different things. You mentioned a bit earlier, and I want to return to that. Every studio kind of goes through this, especially if it's a 14-year development, the turnover stuff, right? Original members might be leaving, new members might be coming in. There's wins here and there that encourages, but if that extends too long without one, then people get demotivated. It's the biggest. I think it's the biggest challenge out of everything that we talked about when it comes to developing with friends or a small team, right? Just constantly trying to get people not to quit. Like it's the biggest mountain that I feel most developers have to climb. So like was there a point out of the turnovers where you felt at a low point of like, I don't even know if this is going to make it through? Like, what was that experience and what helped you get through that?
There's kind of two things with that. So there was a point. So we had a gameplay programmer that was with us for about 5 years, and he really he worked very hard. Like, he worked as hard as I did. He wrote most of the game, and it was bittersweet because one of my big things for this project was, I can't go get like senior mid-level industry people to work on this. I have to find people that are really talented, but they might need just a little bit of mentoring to be like job ready. And that was always the sweet spot for us because, I had industry experience, and one of my things was I can't pay people, but I can help them kickstart their careers and teach them what they need to know, working in a pipeline that I feel was built like a AAA pipeline to teach them and get them experience so they could get jobs. And that also softened the people leaving, because almost everyone that left because they got an industry job from the project. And that's like, no matter what happens with the game, that's like something I'm absolutely the most proud of. That almost everybody that came through their careers advanced because of it. And I think that a lot of people stuck by it for years, even after they did get their industry job, out of a kind of a gratitude for that. Like, hey, this project helped me get my career, so I want to see this through. We were really fortunate to just get amazing people. Almost the whole team stuck by the entire project. My co-founders since college, but from like this iteration on, from 2013 on, most of the team has been with me the whole time. And I think the other part of that is making sure your team just feels valued. They feel heard. In the industry, sometimes you're a cog in a wheel. But in indie, like, everyone, their thoughts should count, their ideas should count. And honestly, the best things in Hanako are because we had open feedback sessions, and the best idea won. It wasn't about like title or position or whose idea it was. It was like, this is freaking awesome, we're doing this. Some stuff I got so excited about, I went and did like that night. I think that kept everyone fueled up. And also like the quality, not everyone had a couple ship titles, but I knew that I could produce at a high level, and it was kind of a lead by example thing. It's like, I knew if I made a really awesome looking map, it would keep the team excited, because like, whoa, this map's like crazy legit. And it worked. I just tried to always over deliver from what everyone expected.
This episode is sponsored by Mudstack. For all the artists out there that are working within a game studio, big or small, you're going to need a great collaboration platform custom built for the digital artist. That's where Mudstack comes into play. It's a special version control review platform custom built for individual artists, whereas other source control feels like it's being built for software engineers. Mudstack is geared towards artists so that collaboration gets even easier, and the only thing you need to concentrate is on your game itself and not the software. So do yourself a favor, go to the solution built just for you, the artist, and get started for free in just a few minutes at mudstack.com. That's mudstack.com. Did you know the top 10 mobile games in the US grossed more than $340 million in June? Do you want your game to earn more? AppFigures is all about giving game makers the tools they need to get more downloads and revenue. You may already know them for analytics and app store optimization. Now, AppFigures can help you keep track of competitors and the game market, from how many downloads they're getting and how much money they're making, to their audience demographics and even which tools they use to power their games. Their competitor intelligence gives you great context. Got a great idea for an app or a game? With AppFigures, you can figure out how big the market is and how much money you could be making with it. Say a competitor adds a new feature or was mentioned in the news. With AppFigures, you can see if that brought in more downloads, and that's just scratching the surface. Whether you're growing your game or building a new one, AppFigures has what you need to reduce risk and get more downloads. Best of all, you don't need a large budget or data science degree to do this kind of thing anymore. AppFigures has made it affordable and simple. On top of tools, AppFigures also provides a lot of guides and tutorials to take you step by step through gaining more visibility with ASO and increasing your revenue by learning from your competitors. They just released a free guide on that, actually. Head to appfigures.com/on/gaindev Unchained to try AppFigures for free. Again, that's AppFigures, appfigures.com/on/gaindev Unchained to try it for free. If you like it, use our special code GDU3030 to get 30% off for the next 3 months. You were mentioning how the the changes kind of helped the game kind of find its place. We're talking about your team being remote before remote was cool, right? The pandemic, I have to ask, I'm assuming that it must have helped development and really pushed this to the end, because now there's no commuting to you guys' main job, and that extra time at home, and basically forced to stay at home. Did that play a factor in kind of speeding up development, or did you guys still hit the deadline that you guys intended before the pandemic?
It kind of yes and no. I don't feel like it sped things up a whole lot, but the team was definitely like fresher, like because like we weren't commuting, we could spend more time with our families before like our Hanako work night started. Like I did a 10 to 2 schedule at nights for like the last like 5-6 years.
Jeez.
And that was easier. I had way more energy for it than before the pandemic. We had some team members that kind of got like stuck in a location for a period of time. There's a few team members that are like world travelers.
Just to clarify, you said 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. was your regular for 6 years.
That was my Hanako work day. And my regular job work day was, 9 to 6 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And before that, the first 5 years or so, I was doing like 7 p.m. to 4 a.m. I was crazy in my 20s. But it took its toll. I had some problems come out of doing that I needed to make a shift, or I don't know if I'd still be here, honestly.
I actually want to kind of dive into that, because I'm noticing that myself, right? We're in our 30s, and I'm noticing a huge difference between my drive. I think my core hour drive is still the same. I still want to succeed, obviously. But that after hour burn, I just don't find the energy there anymore to kind of push through. So I would love to kind of hear more of because you did it for 14 years straight, right? You had like a set schedule. So when was it exactly where you felt like, all right, something's different? Was it when more responsibilities came up outside of game development, right? Or was it just a certain age just hit and you just felt it immediately? What was that shift like? Because I think it happens to everyone quite surprisingly, even though we expect it. But then, when you're young, you feel invincible. And it kind of snuck up on me like, wow, I just don't want to sit here in front of my computer after 6 anymore. It's just not, the motivation's completely gone. I'll get to it later tomorrow morning. Would love to hear you kind of dive deeper into that.
Oh, sure. And I love this question because I think it's so many indie devs are workhorses and they want to churn through their project after work. And that's like, I wrote a blog recently that's just like, here's all of the things I learned from 14 years, the best, the worst, the middle, everything. And the first thing is taking care of your mental health first and foremost. I don't think any job, any project is worth sacrificing your health by not sleeping to work on it. You can always wait till the next day. If you're not feeling it on a given day, like take a break, don't force it. And at that, to the first question, it kind of just like, I think it was an age thing. It just kind of like hit me.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I had been really working extra hard at work. I was trying to get a promotion. The promotion didn't work out. Then I was in transition to a new job. At the same time, I think Hanako was releasing to early access. Yep. So it was right around our early access release. I was pulling really late nights then. I got off my 10 to 2 schedule. I was doing probably like 10 to 4, I would say. And it got to the point that if my body was like, hey, Matt, if you stay up past 3, I'm giving you a panic attack at 3:01 every time you stay up past 3 from now on. That it just happened. And I'd never had a panic attack my entire life until then. Yeah. Like I was always very calm, managed my stress well, like could reason through it. Like I've done martial arts my whole life. That was just built in, but that was like uncontrollable. And it was every time guaranteed. And that was a wake up call. Because it was like, I'm just sitting there, 3:00 hits and I start feeling my heartbeat, start like really controlling my breathing, trying to calm down. And then my head, you swirl. You're like, am I having a heart attack? What's happening? How's my left arm feel? Do I have pain? Do I not have pain? Am I okay? You go down that rabbit hole. Yeah. And that was like really the point where it's like, hey, 10 to 2. I don't care what's going on. 2 a.m. hits, I'm done that night. And I really had to stick to it. And my girlfriend, that's now my wife, was the biggest like balance proponent. Like, hey, if you need to take a break, take a break. Like you don't have to stay up that late every day. And doing the structured time box schedule was more productive than going back to the like 7 to 4, like the giant, because that was like mostly clicking around for an hour, working a little bit for an hour. It wasn't really like great productive work, but when you knew, hey, I have 10 to 2, this is all I get tonight, it was like super productive, even if I was tired. And that, because there was like a penalty. They're like, well, I need to maximize this 4-hour stretch. I need to work smarter and efficient. First off, that was a big change, but also like that's not a super strenuous amount of time. And just and at that point, I was able to get, at least 7 hours of sleep, which that's the most important thing. You've got to get your 7, 8, 9 hours. You just have to, especially, you're right. Once you get around, I think I was like 29 or 30 and it was like, nope, no more of this, Matt. You've done that enough.
Yeah. Yeah, I noticed it around that time. There was just a huge, because I was always, crunching was never an issue. Burning the midnight oil was nothing new to me. I got married young. I had family young. So I was used to having, after midnight was my time. And that was the only time I had. And did that for a long time. But yeah, that it was just like the Matrix, man. Just Neo's just like, no, I'm not doing this anymore. It just, the will was just not there. And I look towards athletes. We're talking about martial artists. You look at these old G's, right? They're not about being spunky in their old age. It's about efficiency. It's about working smart, but being effective, right? So that was a mantra that I was starting to understand and I was starting to appreciate more because if you keep telling yourself you have infinite time and that all you need to do is put more time into it, then you're always going to, put yourself to that, right? But if you say, hey, I got 4 hours, I think it kind of kicks you in the butt a bit about being efficient and being effective and not waste that time, but still have progress, basically, which is the most important part. But that toll, like you said, right? there's a payment there, not just the time given to the project, but like in terms of energy level. I really do feel like a person's just like an athlete. We're kind of like a candle, right? You can burn it all at once, or you can burn it slowly, but that candle at some point, that wick will be gone, right? You don't get a second version of that. So I do feel I see friends, colleagues that are, deep into the 30s, still crunching and working like that. And the aging process, it just expedited. Like maybe 20s, we could have gotten away with it, but I can see in their face, just their posture, just their will, basically, just slowly wither away a lot at a faster rate in anything past 30s. It's dangerous, and yeah, the mental health portion, I really, that's why I'm so interested kind of hearing, because it sounds like you've been doing that for a long time. Through that transition, it's an important conversation that not a lot of developers really sit back and try to understand it themselves. We hear it through AAA, we hear it through indie about all these studios kind of overworking people, and then you hear stories about how it's wrong and stuff. But like on a personal level, person to person, you don't really hear exactly the experience and what exactly does happen when your body kind of starts, your heartbeat feels like it's slowing down, right? It's kind of scary in our line of work.
But, yeah, it really is. And I just think one of the lessons is balance is just so important. Like I feel like that's the key to all of life, not just development, but just all of life, is living a balanced approach to things. Go outside, have other hobbies that aren't screen based. Go hiking, walk around your neighborhood or apartment, just something different. Unplugging is so refreshing. Like on weekends, the last couple of years, I just didn't work on the project. I didn't touch computers. If I watched TV, it was like football or sports or something. But for the most part, I was doing anything other than touch keyboard. And it was refreshing, and it allows you to recharge your batteries. And then by the time, the next work week comes around, you're excited again because you rested. If you're just constantly, if you never step away, you never get to recharge to let that excitement regenerate either. And I see a lot of people that I've worked with over the years, like it's all self-imposed for the most part. Of course there's studios, like, there's OT periods and stuff, but so most people do it on purpose, and they don't have to, and they shouldn't. It's not a badge of honor. You should take care of yourself. You only get one life. And that's something, working on this project for so long, the sacrifices were significant. Looking back at it, I see so many like friendships that kind of withered away because I was so focused on the project, and it took so much free time. And I wonder sometimes how many people I hurt indirectly, like not intending to, just chasing the dream and wherever it headed. And that hurts sometimes, but also it's, that time is done, and all I can do is live better moving forward.
Yeah, one of the lessons I hope that people are learning from the pandemic, and don't forget, is that there's a more emphasis of being at home, being your family, just being around people. Like I feel like a lot of people are discovering what exactly is important besides work, and we're hearing it all over the industry. Like a lot of people are quitting over than actually going to the office. Jobs are being more available and offered as remote, and then so they're kind of taking advantage of the benefits of what the pandemic brought into this new normal world, right? Fortunately, I mean, and unfortunately, it took the pandemic for people to realize that. But I think there's a lot of aftermath that we haven't uncovered about the pandemic just yet. I think we're still going through the Delta strain. It's not completely over, but I'm interested to see what the next 1 year to 2 years is going to be, since our industry was so crunch focused for a while. And then if people, or even a good part of the team, isn't in the office anymore, I wonder how that changes the dynamic of what we're kind of used to, in good or bad ways, right? And for indie development too, I think it's very common for teams such as your team to kind of balance between their salary job versus doing, indie development for free with friends and stuff, right? I wonder if there's going to be a huge boost in even more games, right? Being finished, not just started, but being finished with this kind of new balance. So I guess the question to you is, what exactly do you feel is gonna happen after all this kind of blows over? Like, I'm sure you're involved in a lot of these indie communities. You're seeing a lot of talks of how people are tackling these new advantages, right, of being okay at home all the time, basically no commuting time, right, to kind of work on their game or not. We're seeing exciting things, I think, that are happening. The new systems, unfortunately, I don't think are offering anything too new to indie developers, but I feel like Steam is slowly making a comeback since Greenlight. Like I feel like they're starting to work again. Basically, that Valve, like they're finally doing stuff. What do you feel like is gonna be on the horizon in the next 2 years that's gonna help teams such as yourselves to be better at putting out content?
I think that's a great question. Got to think of where I want to start with this. So from a purely development standpoint, I mean, the tools are better. The Unity and Unreal, the marketplaces are only going to get more mature with better content from more, studios. Like by the end of the project, there's so much like Unreal 4 marketplace stuff we were able to like use and look at for examples on how to do stuff or just outright implement. That stuff's going to only get better. The Ue5 transition is, it's here. There's Epic's genius for making it an upgrade versus an entire engine change. So all your stuff's still compatible. Something I wonder about is the saturation of the market. Like, for example, we released at midnight last Wednesday, and within an hour, our game was off the front page, buried behind like dollar anime games, just gone within an hour of release. And I feel like something's got to give there, because how can the marketplace and consumers figure out what's good and what's not when, for every 100 games in that list, maybe 2 of them are really great, but how do you even know that? Because it's buried right away. And really the only way to get out there and get, premier placement and such is with either big publishing or a big budget, which most indies don't have either of those things. We certainly didn't. We got the Epic grant, which is a really great story, but that didn't really move the needle as much as we thought it was going to. I'm getting a little off topic, but I would hope that I hope that Steam comes around and does a similar structure to EGS with like, they should reduce what they're taking. And I think there needs to be a little more curation. Like, it's just, Greenlight was one way for them to do it. And they went the other way to, if you spend the $500, you can release a Steam game, and all we do is verify that an EXE opens, and that your store page follows, simple, reasonable guidelines. I think that the barrier should be a little bit more difficult than that. But also, I see the other side too, is if you make a small scope dollar game, like it's within your right to release it if that's what you're capable of producing and that's what you're happy with. And I'm sure there's tons of people that want to play those. But for when I'm looking at it from this perspective of, I just spent 14 years on this, and games that might have taken a weekend are covering mine up. Like, I'm frustrated.
Yeah.
That's a tough. I try to see, all sides of the coin there, but On the industry side of things, to go back to, how do you see things changing in the next, year or so? I'm actually really glad that people are standing up for themselves, not just in the game industry, but like it seems like all of tech. People are not putting up with nonsense. If there's nonsense, then they leave and get a better job somewhere, because now they can work anywhere in the world. Like the pool of employment is so much bigger. And I think that's great for people. It stinks the circumstances that caused it, but the outcome in that area of life is I'm happy to see people get better opportunities that they like. Where I'm at, I would never be there if remote wasn't a thing. They wouldn't have come and found me. And now East Coast people can work at West Coast places and vice versa. And the talent pool's bigger. You can get, fresh perspectives where, Bay Area game industry was a little insulated before, for example. And that I think is great. And I think it leads to employers having to take a hard look at how they're treating people. And it's kind of forcing the, not just games industry, but most of tech to like, hey, we got to make sure that like we treat people well and they feel valued and that they have opportunities to grow, but also that they can stay home. Because like even in Atlanta, like traffic here is horrible. And my wife and I have talked about, like, we think the pandemic saved people at least 2 hours of commuting a day, every day, like at minimum. And that's significant.
Yeah. I mean, as creatives, I think one of the worst things about the game industry is that I guess it's like this is just like our generation's problem as artists, is that we get secondhand experience, right? Through Google, through videos. That's how we get our inspiration. Where true artists who have something to say, I feel, actually experience the world firsthand, right? So the more time we spend in the office is, to me, it's less opportunity to be an actual artist, to express and have something to say within the game, within whatever medium, movies, whatever, right? I think our generation as a whole have not been able to live life is what I'm realizing in my 30s, because I'm that workhorse. I got married young. I spent my 20s working hard. I got promoted pretty quickly because of it, because I was dedicated to work. But compared to my friends, I've gone nowhere. I've done nothing but stayed near work. That was my thing, right? And I look at that always is like it's a disservice for the content that we're putting out. Of course, we're a business, so it's all about selling the content. But at the heart of it, we're artists. We're just trying to say something with the game or whatever that we're making, right? And so if we're spending all that time in the office, it's like, what do you really got to say here that haven't been said, that you have experienced firsthand, right? So I struggle with that all the time. And it's just the structure of how things used to be that I'm hoping that will change and we have better things to say. I do want to kind of ask you one last thing, because motivation for a long project such as yours can be difficult, right? To kind of push the team through, to kind of reach milestones and celebrate the little wins. Money helps, right? So you kind of mentioned the mega grant, and we don't have to go too long into it, but if you can kind of recount like the highlights of that, how long was the process in general, and how big of that boost was in confidence for you and your team to continue and finish the game, and when did it happen, in the cycle?
So I can't remember exactly when they launched the Mega Grant program, but whenever that was, I applied like the first day it was open. Nice. And then fast forward maybe 4 years, I had applied probably 7 or 8 times by the time we actually got it. It was just, you get a rejection, I don't know, a couple months later. And I just would every time, a couple times a year, I just reapply, be like, hey, it's on Steam. You can go see the progress and decide for yourself. The last application I had made in January 2020, kind of like right before right as the pandemic was kind of starting. Um, and I took a different approach this time, and I made it more about the journey of our game and how Epic played into it. Like when UE4 came out, we were like the first game to ever be shown on like Unreal Stream. And we were like one of the first like non AAAs to adopt UE4. Like bam, it came out. I took a week off of work, taught myself as much UE4 as I could cram, and we just moved the game immediately. I loved it as soon as I'm like, this is the best game engine I've ever seen. We're moving to it. They were so supportive over the years, and I went more into that and how Unreal opened. It was the means for us to achieve our dream and chase our dream, and it was more on the story of the game's journey more than the game itself. And because that's important, the game's deeply personal, obviously. Um, and in April, they had written back, "Hey, we need more time with your application." and I just figured, okay, well, that's different. It's not a rejection. I guess we'll see. And then I mentioned earlier, October 9th is an important date. Fast forward to October 9th, 2020. That was the 13th year anniversary of my mom's passing. I usually go to lunch at a place that her and I used to go to, and because I still live around where I grew up. And I just listened to Black Hole Sun, which is our song. I don't know why it's our song, but it was. And my phone was kind of in my car, and I went to change the song, and I had an email notification from Epic, and I, pulled out on my phone, and it said, "Congratulations, you've been awarded a mega grant." And they had arranged, I guess they dug into the project and found out that date was important, and they arranged for it to be awarded on that day.
Wow.
I was at a stoplight, and I had to turn, and I just pulled over, and I just cried for like probably 20 minutes. I couldn't drive. I couldn't believe they did that. It wasn't a game changing amount of money, but it was the first time we actually like had something to work with. We put in our own money here and there, but it was nothing in this ballpark. And it blew my mind that they had the awareness to do that for us and to make it significant on a special day for our team. And that date's always been, we released on early access on October 9th. We won that investor conference on October 9th. This came out, or we got the mega grant on October 9th. That date's always done positive things for us. Sometimes we chose it, other times it chose us. And that's really, it's made me question a lot of things in life. Those coincidences. And I still haven't, I've tried to track down who arranged that to thank them and express gratitude, but really they're just excited to do that for us. And, we basically put that towards like PR and trying to make sure our launch got as much attention as it could. And unfortunately, it hasn't gone great so far, which saddens me deeply, but it's kind of the nature of the beast.
Well, it's a beautiful story, man, and I'm so glad that you guys finished it. I mean, to me, that's already you're already standing on a pile of past indie devs that never finished their game. For every finished game, there's thousands more in the graveyard that never see the light of day, and seeing the success that you guys saw along the way, as well as, finishing what you started 14 years ago and all the lessons learned. That's like the best college education I think anybody can ask for the next project, to be honest. Like, I feel like the one thing that I've learned in, being a game developer myself, but also podcasting and talking to talent such as yourself, is that success is measured through persistence rather than the present day, right? And the ones that are able to kind of carry forward best practices and determination are the ones that I feel always eventually just keep, like a stock market, right? Just hit their mark because they're like a magnet, right? They're attracted to that goal and thinking about that goal all the time. And it's a process I think I kind of appreciate more, because to me it's more practical. To me, it's always more realistic to kind of see a team finish something, and then it's like, oh, I can't wait to see your second finished project or your third finished project. And then it's just one of those things that eventually you will hit that target that you want to hit. But overall, from what I've seen and what I'm looking at, man, you guys did a bang up job, man. It looks great. It's coming at a perfect time. Like I mentioned, I think there's a huge resurgence in hand-to-hand combat, martial arts, right? In games that I feel have been missing since honestly the 90s. Outside of fighting games, right? I feel like 90s were like the biggest fighting game period. You got the Street Fighters, you got all these virtual fighters, but also there were like single player campaign. I forget that game, but I remember watching my brother play it, and it's just first person hand-to-hand combat. And you're going through the story. Like I feel like the 90s was the last time where I saw like so many of those games. And then finally, in recent years, I'm starting to see it like a comeback, sort of like shooting is getting repetitive, I guess. So this is, I guess, where we're unfortunately hitting the hour mark here. This is when I kind of hand the mic over, shut up, and let you kind of tell the good people out there to how to find the game. What's the best place to reach you? And all that information.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me. First off, this has been a great time. You're really well versed in the industry, and it's always great to talk to someone with a very similar mindset. We have a lot of shared experiences, and it was very enjoyable to kind of go over them and learn more about your background as well. To everyone else watching, you can find our game Hanako, Honor, and Blade on Steam. Just look it up. To find us, we are very active on our Discord. It's discord.gg/playhanako. We host events there every week. We have for the last, 7 years, and we're going to keep doing it. It's a great way to come kill us if you want to. And
yeah,
I think that's if I had one passing word of advice, if you're an indie developer or hopeful, and you end up finding yourself on a long-term project, and something I've learned is sometimes it's more about the journey and the learning than the destination and the results. And we built this brick by brick, one day at a time, a baby step one day, a big leap the next day. It was just more about enjoying that minute to minute craftsmanship. And I hope that anyone pursuing something like this can learn from these lessons.
Man, I seriously encourage you to kind of, you seem like a writer, a blogger. Have you done kind of these studies before? I would love to kind of see like the full study of the game development, and as kind of like an exercise. But I think overall it'll help kind of with the marketing. But like your story alone and all the ups and downs is so educational for anyone out there. Kind of like a rule book of what to do and what not to do. 14 years is a long time to kind of stick to something and actually deliver it. And that I can't get over how great that is, that you guys were able to kind of see it through all the way to the end and put it out on Steam, man. That's amazing. So for the good people out there, listeners out there, go out and support my man, and go to the links that will be provided in the show notes and everything. As always, jump in the Discord and talk to Matt yourself. But that concludes this show's episode, and see you guys next week.